Welcome to the DickeyDines Show.
God, it smells like Danny DeVito's underboob.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to the DickeyDines Show podcast, episode 12, I believe.
Number
12. We've done it 12 weeks straight. 12 weeks. That's a lot of commitment from the DickeyDines Show,
That's
boys.
a lot of weeks.
That's a lot of weeks. Yeah, it's a lot of consistency, one would say, from
I'm
us.
impressed. Yeah, I'm impressed.
I'm impressed. Today we have a very special guest, Angel Vivaldi, guitar virtuoso, just amazing guy and co-host of Musician Mansion. Mm-hmm. We have a lot of cool things to talk about. We're to talk about music and to talk about his experience on the Musician Mansion show. We'll get into some deep conversations about the industry and independent artists, advice for musicians, all that kind of stuff. He's a very, very wise individual, very well-spoken, very elegant and graceful. So we're very excited to have Mr. Vivaldi with us.
Quite the inspirational episode.
Yeah, he's a cool dude. So we're going to get right into that. Before we do, if you have not yet joined us on Patreon, it would mean the world to us if you would help keep our lights on and help keep our camera guy coming back. We're getting close to 250 active members, which is amazing and awesome, and we'd really appreciate it. If you want to join us there, you can get extra perks. You can come hang out with us on a private Discord server. You can message us directly. There's tons of different perks for the different tiers, and we also have merch down below in the links in the description if you want a shirt. But so if those are interesting to you, you can check it out down below, and if not, we just appreciate you being here and listening to us and watching us be our goofy selves. All right, without further ado, let's get into the podcast with Mr. Angel Vivaldi. All right. Well, today, ladies and gentlemen, we are joined by the one and only Angel Vivaldi. You may know him from his classic hits, such as A Martian Winter, which, by the way, I looked, has over 12 million views on YouTube now, by the way. Very impressive. He has collaborated with artists such as Nita Strauss, Dan Sugarman, Andy James, and more. More recently, he has released an EP called Away with Words Part 2, featuring such songs as 6, 7, 8, and 9. And you might have seen him by my side co-hosting Musician Mansion Season 1, putting us all to shame with his grace and style. Angel, thank you so much for joining us today. How are you doing?
What a joy. What a joy to be here. I'm honored. Can't wait to have a conversation with you boys.
Yay.
Hell yeah. So I don't want to just talk about Musician Mansion today because there is so much more to you than just that show. But I do have a couple questions that I want to throw at you regarding the show. First one being, what was your favorite moment hosting Musician Mansion?
My favorite moment, hands down, was getting a direct eye-to-eye contact with Paola when she was doing her roast, which the cameras did not capture. I wish I had like Apple Vision or like Oculus so people can just see what I saw. There was this level of just like, I just couldn't, like, I lost it. I just couldn't even control it. I'm sure that they edited me cackling a lot out because it was the funniest thing. It was just so unhinged. I think about that. I'll be showering and I'll think about that and I just bust out laughing every single time.
Apollo's intense gaze just pops into your brain.
Dude,
It was very
Sanger. Like,
I gotta say, dude, I don't think I've ever heard you laugh harder than that. I mean, I was laughing really hard too. It was so unexpected. I think was part of it. Was like I didn't know what to expect. I wasn't expecting that. And she gets up there and she just destroys. And it was so funny.
I start now is the best.
Yes, dude.
What are you fucking talking about? You've been killing it for 5 minutes. Now
it
you're
was
gonna
like
start.
fucking layers. It was like, okay, I start now, the massager, and doing it on her knees, I'll get on Sophie's level. Bro, like,
yes.
I just,
dude,
like, hands down, my absolute favorite moment, man. Like, it was just so good.
she's naturally very funny, and it is interesting because we talked to of her and Greystone on a different podcast, and
Mhm,
she said that she had no idea what she was going to do, and
mhm.
she improved the entire thing, and that I like doing stand up in and of itself is very very hard, but
Yeah.
to just have nothing except
Right.
for the one joke with the poof, you know, the chicken poof joke. That's all she said she had, and then she just improv the entire thing, and she murdered. It was the funniest. Like I said, I don't think I've ever heard you laugh as hard, and it was
Yeah.
just the greatest.
Very funny.
Dude, it's just top favorite moment, hands down, hands down.
Yeah, that was a really good one. Have
Actually,
you?
second, to interrupt you, was actually the second day when Hannah and I. This is probably the second that you probably heard me laugh the loudest. Was when we were in that kitchen making pancakes for everyone, and we were making
Oh
like
yeah.
special, bro. Like everyone was like, "What the hell is going on in there?" Like Hannah and I were in tears for the stupidest shit. Stupidest shit. We made a pancake. It looked like a lung. We gave it to Lauren.
Because she's a singer.
Stupid thing. Like, so yeah, there were a lot of those moments, man. But yeah, if I had to choose one, definitely Paula, man.
Yeah, you and Hannah had a lot of bonding moments for sure, and she still talks about it. Just speaks very highly of you and the fun moments. But yeah, I do remember that, and I remember thinking that just like what is happening in that
Yeah,
kitchen? Like you guys were just riffing off each other, having a great time.
it was beautiful, man.
I love it. I love it. Have you ever hosted a show before? And if so, what was the experience like?
Mhm.
Um, and then, as far as hosting the Mansion show, did it come naturally to you? How did you prep for it coming into it? Was it something that was just kind of like a piece of cake, or did you have some sort of method of like, okay, you know, how are we going to execute this? What was your thought process going into the show?
Yeah, honestly, I never really hosted anything like an event, a show, or anything like that prior. I think what it is, it's like being a musician. You sort of learn from the people who you admire in terms of like how they carry themselves, or rather with musicians, like how their riffs sound. It's like, all right, you're emulating those riffs, and eventually you're doing that with 12 other musicians, and then you do your interpretation, and that's your sound. When it comes to me speaking in front of a camera, there's certain influences that like I just really admire listening to, like lectures and stuff from like philosophers and stuff like that. I've been listening to those for well over a decade now. So I think it's just more a matter of like how people speak and how they carry themselves. When it came to hosting this one in particular, like listen, um, it was much more like I understood what was needed. It was a supportive role, and my job was really just to come in prepared and not to waste time. So part of preparation is just learning your lines, and learning them in a way that it's like a song. Learning them like a way is like a song. When you're inflecting differently, and then vibing off of you and how what you're bringing to the table. It's just a matter of just like really being aware and vibing with the environment and what's going on. I feel like the first 2 days, everyone was sort of like, no one, this has never been done before. No
Right.
one's done this before. So it was a big learning experience. But once people got comfortable, then it was easier to sort of like improvise, as we saw, But it's just like, just doing your part, man, doing your homework and just understanding what's going on, what's happening on what day, how it's happening, but not getting married to the script because you'll be in for a rough divorce once, like, oh, this is actually a better idea. Let's do this.
Mhm.
It's like, all right, then you have to unravel your lines and you have to, get out of that rehearsed sort of, method. But yeah, man, just doing whatever needs to be done and just like being an asset to the whole production. That's always my approach.
Yeah, I think now that you mention it, I do vaguely remember there was one day where I did change up the script a little bit,
Hmm.
I think, and it was
Yeah.
kind of more of like a improv thing. It was interesting because I do remember talking to you about how I've never thought about it this way, and it's actually genius. You said when you think about like the way you speak as a song and how it flows and how like the inflection is like dun 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 dun, like I've
Hmm.
never thought of it that way, but then once you said that, I was like, that's actually like that is like really interesting to me. Like it's just a really cool way to approach it. Is that something that you kind of just learned on yourself to or is it like, like you said, maybe listening to philosophers or like
Hmm.
I've never heard that before. You're the first person that I ever heard that from. So it's really interesting.
Yeah, so for me, anytime you see me speak in front of a camera, I like to choose my words very, very, very carefully. um, because my part of being an artist is being misunderstood, but that's also my kryptonite. I hate when people misunderstand my approach to doing something or my intention to doing something.
Mhm.
So I always work off of a script, and then I open up Logic. I read the script to myself in the way that I want to say it, and I listen to it over and over and over and over and over again to the point where it becomes a song. And
Mhm.
then if you're a good musical improviser, you can improvise off the song that you heard, you know?
Mhm. Mhm.
So it just becomes to a point where your muscle memory in your brain, because your brain, I mean, it's mostly fat, but it's a muscle that you flex. And the more you do it, like whether I did like the DiMarzio video, or like I'm talking about a documentary, or anything that you've seen me do, I script everything out. And the reason why is because like sometimes you go to record and you'll have an off day. You won't know what the hell to say.
Yeah.
And then you'll be like, you'll look back, you'll be like, fuck, that's like so cringe. Why did I say that? And it could be all sorts of things. It could be lack of caffeine, lack of energy, lack of sunlight, lack of sleep, whatever, lack of water, clean air. All these things like affect you. So to sort of have control over like not wasting people's time, I learn my lines, I know them, I know variations, and but again, there's this middle ground. You don't get locked into that because, dude, again, you'll be in for that rough divorce, and it ain't pretty, dude. It ain't pretty.
Yeah, for sure. And recording yourself doing it too, I think is a really good idea. It's almost like how you would imagine an actor to do. They have their line, they have to deliver it
Mm,
a certain way. So they're like, okay, well, or say, even if you, I don't know, have to do like a specific accent. And so you record yourself and you listen over and again and again and again.
mhm,
And that repetition, if you can be unbiased with yourself and like, oh, I need to work on this, I need to make this better, and be
mhm,
honest with yourself, you can
mhm.
actually just do such a better job that way. I think that's beautiful. I think it's brilliant.
I
And it's
wonder if
and
I
it's
wonder
not
if
a job. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I was gonna say, I wonder if that translates at all to like the part of your brain that recognizes and can sing along to songs. Like if you were to listen to an old video, if you could
Mhm.
like talk along with it just because you have it kind of memorized in that way, like
All the
rhythmically.
time. All randomly, sometimes in my Apple Music, because I have it in Apple Music playlists. If I hit shuffle my Apple Music, I'll get a line from a DeMarzo thing. I'm like, oh Jesus Christ, you know. And I'll know the song. I'll know exactly how I said it.
That's so
Um,
funny. That's wild.
yeah, it's really
Awesome.
interesting. But I think it's a thing where like it's a muscle you flex, and the more you flex it, the better you get at it. Because the other thing too is um because oh, I had a whole thing, man. Once I start riffing on this kind of shit, man, it's just I feel so alive. I love it.
It's cool, man. Like, yeah,
Yeah.
it's very interesting. I gotta try that because I definitely will, for certain videos. I will like write a few lines down. I'll kind of say them to myself in my head, and
Mhm,
then there's such a change that happens just from writing it down and then speaking it,
mhm.
where I'll speak it and I'll be like, "Oh, I need to change this word because I don't talk like that. I need to change this word because that
Yeah,
doesn't feel normal." Just even changing words like the or as instead of something else, or really instead of like a lot, like little words here and there that you write down, you think of it this way, but then to say it, it's like, well, that felt really weird.
Mhm.
And so then when I
yeah,
speak it, I rewrite it. And so what you're doing is taking it to the next level where you write it, speak it, record it, and listen to it. And I think that's awesome. I think
Yeah.
that's really cool. It's a really
yeah.
cool way of
Works for
doing it.
me. Definitely works
Yeah.
for me.
And then, yeah, being still able to like improv out of it, like you were saying, to
That's
where
the
like
hard part.
it's so similar with music, of like being able to vibe
Yeah.
with someone and feel, the flow of it. And sometimes you land and maybe sometimes you don't. But, that's the cool thing about recording and, video is you can do 2 or 3 or 4 different takes, whatever. But yeah, for sure. Um,
Yeah.
some of the coolest moments for me was when I saw you just jamming with like Dylan and Jimena.
Yeah.
do you do a lot of improv sessions at home, or is that just something that you can like turn on whenever?
Yeah, yeah. Honestly, that was another bunch of really awesome memories. Because I think the gift of that week for all of us, really, I mean, it's obvious, but it's just being able to be in a room and collaborate and just jam, like we're 16.
Yeah.
Mhm.
That doesn't happen anymore. That doesn't happen anymore because, and thank God, honestly. I mean, I know a lot of people like to have nostalgia around like just being in the studio. That's fine, but at the same time, in my situation, when I was doing that, I couldn't record my song, so I'd have to have my backing band play the chorus to A Martian Winter for 3 hours while I try to come up with something. That's ridiculous.
Mhm.
It's such a waste of time. There's a magic in it, but it's like, come on,
Right.
work smart, not hard. Where it was when you're jamming like that and you're improvising, it's always been a huge part of like how I compose. Composition to some degree is improvisation. I mean, unless you're writing in Guitar Pro, which is fine. But I think that when it came to chemistry, like with Dylan in particular, like my blue and his yellow make a fucking sick green, man. Like I could
Mhm.
write an album with him. I'm very confident we could sit in a room and just flow out an album. And it was spooky because I'm not familiar with his style. We never really jammed, ever. I never really met him, and we were stopping like
Yeah.
Meshuggah level assembly line stopping when we knew the song was ending. It
Mhm.
was just like spooky.
Yeah.
So that was awesome. And then Jimena, me, and it was a bunch of
Bradley.
us in the back room. We were jamming and stuff. Yeah, man. Improvisation is a huge part of how I compose, and in my live streams, I do that quite a bit. I love it, and I love the fear. You know what I'm saying? Like it's not this.
Mhm.
It's this sort of level of anxiety that sort of pushes you to be really focused and mindful about what you're playing, and you sort of wear that experience on your body. Like I feel like when I'm in flow state and I'm just like I can feel that it's hard to feel what people are perceiving you as in your live streams, but this sort of weird collective energy, like, and you go back and then you see people reacting. It's like, oh, that one note, and that's the same note that I fucking hit, that I felt, and they felt it. It's like this magical thing, and I sort of see improvisation, especially when I'm touring and I'm doing it live. I always have sections in my songs that switch it up. It's just improv, and I look at it as like it's a gift to just that audience and to no one else,
Mhm.
Mhm.
So yeah, man, I fucking love improv, man. I love it so much. I love it so much.
Well, it's interesting. Like, I was going to be my next question is if you improv a lot of stuff when you do your live shows and touring, but I
Mhm.
kind of almost feel like with play like rehearsing your songs and then you go and you perform your songs,
Mhm.
that's for the audience, and then when you improv, it's also for the audience, but I feel like it's for you as a musician as well.
Mhm.
That's for you to feel something, because I think the thing is with like rehearsal, you play a song 100 times, technically you have it perfect, you can perform it, the audience will love it note for note, but you're not really like feeling a whole lot because it's
You're
in there.
desensitized.
It's, yeah, you're desensitized. Whereas
Yeah.
when you improv, you kind of like your eyes open up a little wider, maybe, and your brain gets a little sharper, and you kind of like, okay, here we go, and your heart rate starts coming up a little bit. That
Mhm.
moment's for you. Is this gonna, am I gonna land this? Am I gonna fall on my ass? What's gonna happen? And
Absolutely.
the audience gets to enjoy it as well. But I think for the musician, that's when you as a musician enjoy it the most.
I
Does
could
that
not
make
agree more.
sense?
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely, absolutely. Because I think it's an exchange of energy. You're giving, they're giving, they're giving, they're giving. And I think that with improvisation, if and it's a brave thing to do, right? Because improvisation is sort of like you don't know what's going to happen, but you have to
Mhm.
trust yourself and you have to know that you're putting in the work to be able to free glide like that, And some people can do it and some people can't. I don't think a musician is better if he can or he can't. I don't care. Like that is
Yeah.
not important to me. But what is important to me is a sort of you providing a unique experience for the audience that's also for yourself, and the fact that the audience can see you enjoying yourself in a different way outside the context of written music, that's another level of a gift that they get to experience because only they get to experience you in that moment, because I've had improvisations where they're really good, and I've had improvisations that they were like, C minus, that they were okay. And when it was like not the best improv, you know it's one of those things where like I always approach it with a level of humor. So when I tour, like if in the improv I want to do something and it's technically demanding, and I know it's like a 70% chance I might land it, and 30% I might screw it up. I had like this little like meme in the back of my guitar at the time, and I think it was a vector of Freddie Mercury doing this, and it said nailed it. So if I fucked it up, I'd flip my guitar over and just do this, and everyone gets a laugh.
Yeah.
So it's sort of things like that because the thing is, I feel with musicians, we obviously ruminate on our mistakes quite a bit. As I've gotten older, it's really easy for me to just let loose, and it got to the point where I can actually be creative with how I let loose, just so that I don't hold that experience in my head after the show is done and on the bus and into the next. Again, I'm carrying that to every show. So I definitely like to sort of have like a nice balancing it where it's like this sort of lighthearted, like we all fuck up, man. Petrucci screws up. Vi screws up. Everyone screws up. I've seen it. I've heard it,
Yeah.
And I think if you don't take yourself so seriously, take what you do in life seriously, but don't take yourself seriously, man. We're all pieces of shit. Relax.
I love that. I think that humor is a great way to land on your feet when you technically make a mistake. It's like this great way to kind of bring it back around.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? If you can embrace the humor in something that may not have been what you wanted, it's like, oh, like, yeah,
Mhm.
because it's even like when you're telling jokes or something, and you say a joke, no one laughs. If you own it, and then you kind of land on your feet. But if you're like, oh God, and then it just gets worse, and you get super serious, then it's even worse, right?
Dude, it's so bad, man. I've bombed some banter. Like when I was first starting, here's the thing. I never in a million years wanted to be a front man, dude. I just wanted to be the guitarist in the band. That's all I genuinely wanted to be. This whole guitar instrumental fucking front, that was a happy accident. Bro, one time, man, I bombed and I tried to save myself. Try to save myself in a matter of like 3 minutes. It was just the most awful thing. Like my heart fell deeper and deeper and deeper into my asshole the more I talked. It was like, bro, you have to be talented to have a banter that bad. But it's one of those things where you look back and you're just like, all right, I can't like jump that deep, into the deep end like that quick. Like there's this sort of evolution of confidence,
Sure.
and for me, hiding behind the guitar was my level of confidence. You put me behind a mic, I am a vulnerable naked human being that's in front of a bunch of people, and that was not my sword to wield, and I
Yeah.
knew it at the time. But there was this conscious effort to be like, all right, I have to face reality. If I'm going to be a guitar instrumentalist and this is my name, I have to like, this is my circus. I have to ringlead this entire circus, and I have to have people in the palm of my hand. And the way that I learned was just, again, like we were mentioning earlier, like watching the greats do it. What are people responding to? It's like that classic thing where it's like the wise man learns from his mistakes, the wiser man learns from other people's mistakes, but the wisest man learns from other people's success. And bro, watching guys like Vi and Devin Townsend and Petrucci, and like all these people have different things, and you just sort of like grasp onto certain things that just like move you or like make you laugh. You're like, all right, how can I do that and put my own twist on it? And it was just sort of like adopting those jokes and changing them and changing them and changing them and exaggerating them a little bit more, and then you get to the point where you get that confidence,
Right.
and you can loosen to the experience to laugh at yourself a little bit,
Mhm.
For sure. And like the successful people that we look up to have also failed hundreds of times.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's like when you think about, whether you're a comedian doing stand up or you're a musician, in whatever field, those people that you're looking up to, like, oh man, they have so much confidence. They're killing it. Their stage presence is awesome. They're so talented. They're so good. It's like that person probably spent years falling on his ass, falling on her ass to get to where they're at, and they've bombed in front of hundreds and thousands of people before in front of different venue and they learned over the years. And then we're kind of blessed to be able to just kind of see their success and be like, oh, that's how it should be, without having, we still do have to go through it ourselves to find our own voice, but it definitely helps. But I think a lot of times people forget that when you see that massively successful person that you idolize, they spent years in the trenches failing. You know what I mean?
And
Most
they're still
usually,
failing. They're
yeah.
still failing, dude. Like it's a smoke and mirrors thing. I was having this conversation with someone recently, but it's to the extent like we all know that the internet's fake, but it is really not what you think it is at all. At all. You know? I think one of the things was the podcast. There was this one comment about Bradley Hall, and I was just having a conversation with Bradley, and it was outside of his kooky, exaggerated version of himself. And the comment was something along the lines of, oh man, if he was like this all the time, I'd love his content. And my whole thing was like, he's not making content for you. Like, do you think he actually acts like he's in his kitchen making rice, going, no, dude, he's a human being, like, you know. So there's, but the other thing too is I think where a lot of the like legendary acts sort of like fumbled a bit was when the internet happened, because it's a completely different medium. No one really knew how to wield it. They had to take their cues from who? Content creators. Because it's working. All right, this is something that I have to do. I have to find this happy medium with what I'm doing. You know, there's always things that they adopt, you know, because it's a completely different industry. It's almost like its own little thing. It's like there's a music industry, there's a movie industry, but then there's like the internet industry. And they have parallels, you know, and everyone affects everything else because it's sort of it's a medium of entertainment. But when you look at it objectively, man, I think that the older that you get, the more and if you're in the industry yourself and you see all the fumbles that you've made, that maybe you're able to save. You could delete that post, or you can edit that caption, or do, you know,
Right.
it's happening all the time still. We're still figuring shit out, man. And that's amazing. It means that we care enough to want to figure it out. You know, we're not complacent. You know, and I think that it's just, again, it's something that you get better at, you know, and you also get better at being kind to yourself when you do screw up.
Right. I think it's also there's so much more like realness to it now, where you know you're in, like, if you think about like legacy artists, you know, they weren't hiding, but they were hidden behind a label. They were hidden behind whatever project they were working on, whether it was an actor for a movie. You saw them in that movie, and then you didn't hear from them for 3 or 4 years. And then you saw them in this movie, and then, you know, a band would drop an album, and then 2 years, 3 years later, it would go by, and then they drop another one. That's all you ever saw from them. That's all you ever really heard. Where now, you know, all these people have Twitter, they have Facebook or Instagram, they're posting multiple times a day, so you actually get to see, oh, this person thinks this person said this person actually isn't as perfect as we thought, and as magically unicorny as we thought they were. And I think it kind of is breaking down that wall a little bit, and kind of like you said, where it's like content creators kind of understand that a little bit better, whereas like more legacy artists are like, well, I've always been like this, but it's like, yeah, but now everyone knows you're like that, you know?
Right.
Like, you know, I
Yeah.
mean, Trap Guy, the vocalist of Case in Point, right? Like,
Yeah.
everyone loved Trapped in the early 2000s, and then he gets a Twitter and he just shits on everyone. It's like, oh, you're an asshole. It's like,
Bro, Twitter has been the destruction of so many people's careers.
Yeah.
Giving people
Yeah, and-
access to post their opinions too loudly.
It is. And listen, I mean, I don't care. I still love Trap, bro. I think they're fucking great
They have some
songwriters.
great songs.
Dude,
I don't give a shit, dude. I don't really care what someone believes. I don't care who you voted for. I don't care what God you believe in. Let's have dinner and talk about it. I don't care about that shit, dude. Like, I think that's one of the things that's so it's hard for certain people. I think certain people are just sort of like, they identify themselves by their values, and I think that's fine. I think that's wonderful, man. I think that it's good to have values. But you know, I think maybe it's because I'm in the industry, and it's easier for me to get this approach. But you know, it's easier for me to separate the art from the artist, because I know a lot of these people, and I know the kind of people that they are, and I also know that the kind of people the internet sees them as. So like, there's obviously like thousands of versions of us. Like, there's a version of me that you know, there's a version of me that Austin knows, there's a version of me that Kevin knows. There's all sorts of different versions of ourselves, and you know, and that's another thing too, when you're like sort of when you're in this space of any industry, to be quite honest, especially like a competitive one like music, it's really easy to sort of like especially when you're a male, to have that sort of animosity sort of ring of like competitiveness that sort of like skews the view of
Mhm.
how certain people see you. But at the end of the day, like that's also a version of you that's probably true. Maybe you're again having an off day, right?
Sure.
A fan sees you at a show, you're having an off day. Oh, he's sloppy a lot, or like you do one thing, like, oh, he's an asshole, whatever, you know. It's just all sorts of different versions of ourselves, man. So I think if you just know who you are, man, and you have people who love you unconditionally, and you're sort of putting effort into not being an asshole and being a better version of yourself, like everyone wins. Everyone wins.
That's so true. I know that for a fact. Like, I used to hear stories of, oh, I met this guy and he did this, so he is just now blanket asshole. Whereas,
Right,
like,
right.
like you said, though, people have off days, and it's like, well, what were you doing to that person? Were you being super annoying? Were they trying to like take a phone call with one of their loved ones, and you were sitting there tapping them on the shoulder? It's like there's so many, and yeah, they might be having a bad day, so it's like there are tons of different versions of ourselves, and I don't know, it's interesting. The modern era of the music industry and content creation is interesting, but I think the one cool thing about it is that it does show people kind of like, it puts people in front of an audience that may not have ever been able to be in
Agreed.
front of an audience, like an
Mhm.
independent artist. Whereas, back in maybe the 60s, 70s, and 80s, if you weren't on a label, you were just dead in the water.
New
Uh,
York to LA, location, location, location. Now you could be anywhere, man. You could
yeah,
be anywhere. So it's
100%.
a great time, baby.
That kind of goes into another question that I had. Was that do you think that there is a low ceiling for independent artists? Like, in other words, do you think it's easy for independent artists to cap out due to lack of label funding and promotion, in
No,
especially nowadays with like the oversaturation?
no. I think people cap out because they're doing the same thing that a million other people are doing. So if you're doing the same shit that 20 other bands are doing it and they have a huge audience, well, you're going to cap out because you're sharing your fans with hundreds of other bands are doing the same thing. What's going to make them buy your ticket to go to your show or your merch over like after the burial?
Mm-hmm.
Come on, dude. Or Polyphia. Good luck, dude. People's attention and their money and their support is limited. It's a limited resource, okay? So the pool of guitar instrumental, and we'll use that as an example. The pool of guitar instrumental is probably what? 2.5 million people online. Beauty industry, probably 20 million people active users, right? So everyone's sharing everything else. We're sharing fans. So I think that having something that is completely unique to yourself, is like that's the thing that's going to give you the most longevity.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a risk, big reward, because you're doing something sort of against the grain to some degree. But the longer you do it and the more that you stand with your convictions and the more authentic you are about it, and you're not an anxious person chasing trends and trends, because here's the thing, by the time you actually make in your career, that trend's going to be over, bro. There's going to be something else. Then there's going to be something else. And you're going to spend your entire career, chasing trends and trying to do this and do that. So about 2 years, I launched an artist coaching and mentoring company called the Zenith Council.
Mm-hmm.
And dude, it's been amazing, man. It's like I love teaching. I love doing anything with music business and branding and marketing. Like that's like a massive, massive, like guitars and music's here, and it's like right here. I love doing it, man. It makes me feel so great. Um, and the more that I do it, the more that I'm seeing the same sort of patterns. Where you know people are just trying to figure things out in a way that's, excuse me, that's just like counterproductive to their own success. They're just genuinely afraid to be themselves. Ultimately, they're afraid to do what they want to do because the algorithm wants this, the algorithm wants that. Was like, there's a happy medium, man. You can do your
Mm-hmm.
own thing and it still appease the algorithm to some degree.
Sure.
You don't have to do the thing. But I guess with regards to the low ceiling, it's like, obviously we all know the days of the Metallicas and the Madonnas and all those are gone. And thank God. Why? The ceiling is like a very narrow skyscraper. Now, the ceiling's a lot lower, but it expands. So a lot more of us can eat. You know,
Sure.
it gets squished down, but now a lot like people like me, people like Ola England, like we can all have like a comfortable means of living so long as we keep working, but when you look at the people who are like really really killing it, for the most part we're all doing something like pretty different from one another or similar enough where it's like relevant, like
Mhm.
um I think any 2011 traditional gent band wouldn't really have a chance these days,
Sure.
But someone like Spirit Box doing something a little bit, or rather, better yet, Sleep Token doing something radically different with it. There you go.
Sure.
So yeah, I think that the ceiling it's lower, but it's lower for reasons, and I think thank God for those reasons, man.
I think it's really easy for people to do stuff that isn't authentically themselves, because then if people hate it, they can say, well, that's not me. And they can,
Yeah.
that's not actually what I
Mhm.
think. That's not actually who I am. It's a lot harder to put yourself out there where it's something that you stand for, that you are strong about. It's your style, it's your humor, it's your playing, whatever. Because then if people hate it, then it's directly at you. Oh, they hate
Mhm.
me. So that can be, I think, a lot harder for some people who may have that anxiety of, I don't know if you feel that way,
That's fair. That's
if
fair.
you think that is
Yeah.
is fair. But yeah, I think it's really cool that we have the platforms that we do now. Like I was talking to Hannah about this a couple weeks ago, saying that it's so different in the space now, where back in the day you might have had one or two artists that make it, like the Led Zeppelins, the Beatles, whatever, or
Mhm.
in any type of art, the Mona Lisa, or things that, because back then people were painting everything. And the
Yeah.
Mona Lisa is just one thing that happened to stand the test of time, whereas thousands of other paintings probably just were destroyed, burned, or forgotten about. Well, the same thing with music. And I feel like it's the same thing nowadays, where the cream always rises to the top, even though there's a ton of oversaturation. It just might take a little bit more time for that to be noticed,
Yes.
potentially, because they
Yeah.
have to wade through thicker waters to get to the surface,
That's a good way to put
if
it.
that makes
Yeah, I mean,
sense.
Spirit Box was I wrestled a bear once for years before they
Yeah.
got success as Spirit Box.
Yeah,
Yeah.
100%, and so many times you see, like, people who might come up on YouTube or SoundCloud, and then they either go on to make a movie, or they go on to, like, Filthy Frank, who then went on to do Joji, and so it's like you see all these cool options now for independent artists to actually build themselves up over time and then achieve what they ultimately want to achieve, whether it's world famous or not. I mean, I feel like most people don't care about being like Michael Jackson level famous. Like, even playing shows in front of 100 people, 50 people might be enough for a
Yeah.
lot of people, so it's like having those options to do that. Things like Spotify, the availability of music nowadays is so much different than it used to be. I remember
Oh,
having
definitely.
going to like the library and rent a CD that was scratched, it would skip all the time, and I'd have to put it in my player and then listen to it, burn it on another CD, and then take it back to the library. And it nowadays is just, oh, I got every song in the
Mhm.
entire world ever on my phone.
Right,
Yeah.
yeah. You can be a
Like,
band that's just really one person and
yeah.
hires
Yeah.
5 people, it's easy, like,
100%, but I
could
think
never
it's
do that
also
before.
the responsibility of the fans and the audience to actually seek out what they want, and also, like, I'm an extremely organized person, so, like, my Spotify, like, I have all of my playlists, like, very easily, like, beautifully curated so that I just love art and music so much, I never wanna forget about it, and
Mhm.
even
Yeah.
with, like, the playlist that I have, like, I'm constantly rediscovering artists all the time.
Mhm.
So the second that any human being says the following words, you're old and you've given up. And those words are, there's no good music out there these days.
Yeah.
That is the biggest crock of shit I've ever heard in my life. So you mean to tell me with the number of uploads on Spotify daily, they're all shit.
Right.
Get
Everyone.
out of here, man. You're
Yeah.
lazy and that's okay. What was the one study that said that after you're 30, you just stop discovering new music, most people?
Mhm.
And that's okay. You could still enjoy Killswitch Engage. You could still enjoy Metallica's Master of Puppets. That's fine. There's nothing wrong with it. But to say something as crazy as it's no good music,
Yeah.
it's like you have to understand that every single generation says that. And you said that to your parents when you were 15. And it's just like over and over and over again. Dude, you got to open up your mind, man. Open up your mind and just like
Yeah.
find it. It's there for you. They curate playlists for you. Like, what more do you want?
Right. Right. For sure. 100%. I think the reason for saying that is better than saying it, because I could see how, like, oh, you're 30, you're married, you have kids, you have a full-time job. You don't really have time to spend 2 or 3 hours on Spotify all the time.
Of
I
course.
get that. The
Absolutely.
reason why they may not be discovering new music is totally fine. But then to just say, oh, there's no good music, it's like, you should know that there is. You shouldn't say it. Like,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? But yeah, there's totally easy ways to discover new music. So yeah, that's definitely silly when people say that. I want to talk about your music for a few minutes here.
Oh
So
God.
your older music, which is actually how I was first introduced to you, like Martian Winter, Mercurian Summer. Those songs, love them, and they have more of a, like, I guess, aggressive metal vibe to them. While still obviously maintaining like the melody and stuff. But your newest stuff is more like a jazzy kind of Latin swing groove, like bluesy shred fusion stuff, which is really cool, by the way. I love it. What inspired that sound on your newest release? And do you think moving forward that you're going to want to keep going down that kind of road, maybe go back to a heavier sound, or just kind of whatever comes to you?
Yeah. Well, I appreciate that. I think that ultimately, um, I think every musician has had those conversations of like you're in a room with someone, you're like, oh, I have these ideas, and they just sort of go off like, oh, I want to do this kind of record, or I want to write this type of song, or I want to work with this kind of person, or I want to do this, and then they just sort of never get around to doing it.
Mm-hmm.
With Away with Words Part Two, the latest record, it's actually Part One came out about 10 years ago, and Part Two was obviously in April. So the whole concept is yin and yang, you know. So the space in between was sort of planned to some degree, um, because first of all, I was very honest with my career. I didn't have I don't feel like I had my career warranted doing something just so super left field, but I think it just came from a place of authenticity, man. Like it was easy for me to write that record. I grew up listening to that shit. My first ever musical experience was playing that stuff in church, you know? And to go back to it, it was just like, and let's listen. I know that it is, especially for someone who like, uh, puts food on their table by the music that they write. I knew it was going to be a huge business risk, um, being so radically different. But there's the one common thing that I remember people saying about it was that it still sounds like you, like I still hear you, like your phrasing, like your voice is still on there. And that was very, very validating for me because there was always like there's days where I love the record, there's days where I hated the record, there's days I love it, you know. It's one of those things, you know. I think we all
Yeah.
sort of go through that. Um, but um it's always a part of who I am, and I feel like if I'm not writing the music that's in my heart and exploring every type of music that inspires me, then I'm not being authentic fully, you know? I'm just writing music to pay my bills, and that's fine. That's okay. I don't judge anyone how they make their living at all. You know, write the same record over and over again. I don't care as long as you're making people happy. You can feed your kids and you can put a roof over your head. Better than working for someone else, right? But for me personally, man, like I've never I have my religion is my conscience, and if I'm not listening to it, man, like I just don't feel well. I don't feel good. So I had all these songs sort of written and like seeds of them, and I had to kind of find a way to integrate it into like how I want to release it, you know. So for me, visuals and all my records are concept records. So like I had to figure out, all right, how am I going to warrant doing something this crazy, you know? So like the artwork is part one and part two. You put it together, it's like this beautiful mural. All the videos are all like, you know, very they're telling stories. Like the first video for 8 is actually like one of the most important movies for me growing up was Sister Act. And
Love
it's
that
sort of a
movie.
oh dude, very deep place in my
Both
heart,
of
that
them.
movie.
Yeah, 1 and 2 are good.
You want it too? Yeah, with Lauryn Hill.
Yeah.
But if you look, the treatment of the music video, it's very much an homage to the scene when Whoopi Goldberg takes over the choir and
Mm.
everyone starts coming in. It's sort of the same sort of thing. There's this rundown bar, and there's this sort of like Latin fusion, sort of rock kind of music that no one's in the neighborhood heard. So everyone comes in, then it's a dance party, then we're dancing, then it's choreography. It's a good time, Um, and yeah, so like things like that to tell the story, because obviously with instrumental music, with a title like 8, like what the fuck does that mean?
Song 8, yeah.
But really, the record's called Away with Words, and the first part 1 was all in Morse code,
Mhm.
which was confusing, but I don't give a fuck. Whatever, it is what it is.
Yeah, the
Um,
dash, dot, yeah.
yeah, man. But the problem is, since I waited 10 years to release part 2, when I upload on TuneCore, they don't allow the dots and dashes anymore.
Oh no!
Oh, no!
Bro, like imagine me 3 o'clock in the morning, like
You
Dual
like
camera.
literally have to spell out dash, dot.
and fans remember that. Like if I'm on tour, they're like, "Why don't you play dot dot dash 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 dash?" I'm
Yeah.
like, "You mean short short long 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 long?" Because it's Morse code. But it's just wild. I think that's the other thing too. It's kind of wild how my fans are just so great, man. They're like they're invested in the lore of what I do. Like they
Mhm.
remember that shit, and I'm just
Yeah.
like, fuck, man. Like I'm blessed, man. They're just wonderful people. They're just like genuinely good people, and I'm really lucky.
Yeah, dude, that's awesome, man. When you write your music, do you typically write alone, or do you get together with a group, your band, and write in a studio? Because I know you kind of touched on it where you said, it's a little silly, obviously, if you have your full band
Yeah.
playing a chorus for 3 hours, but I mean, that's more or less. So I guess it's part of the writing stage. But do you what do you usually do, and what do you prefer to do?
Yeah, I do prefer working on my own these days. Ever since Way with Words Part One, for the past 10 years, I've been working my own studio,
Hmm.
using like drum loops and stuff like that, because there is something to be said about like collaborating, but it's a solo project, so I can really take my time and really finesse the perfection that I want. I mean, even when I record my records, rhythm guitars are done in a studio, drums are done acoustically in a studio, but when it comes to leads, that's a very personal sort of crafting, because like I'm very careful choosing my words when I'm
Hmm.
talking in front of a camera. I am extremely careful with the notes that I choose. I rarely ever really choose, with the exception of 2 songs, and I know them by heart and I know the reasons why. In certain sections, like every note is like curated for like a fucking reason, and it's phrased in a way for a specific reason, because it's not just about the leads, you know. For me, it's like the whole song is incredibly important, and I think that's more evident on Way with Word Part Two, on more than any record, because there's bass, there's piano, there's piccolo, there's horns, there's all these different instruments that I'm writing for. So, and I'll tell you one thing: not having a metal mix where you can actually hear and appreciate every like pore on someone's musical skin, you can hear the little accents on the bass, was, bro, that was just like, I sort of want to do this music forever now, because I feel like everyone can hear everything that I want to say on every level.
Hmm.
But to answer your last question, I guess if I'm going to continue this route or another route, I have no idea. I have
Hmm.
one my next concept record planned. It is a heavier record, more traditional, but I also have a ton of other stuff too. Um, and I'm also in a new band now, Infinity's Ashes, with a singer and doing that whole thing. So, um, which has been great. I
Yeah,
think
how
over
did
the
that come to be? Yeah.
Oh god, man, that was wild, dude. I got a message randomly. This is the reason why, like, musicians respond to every comment, every message, every single one, man. Don't ever take it for granted, because one day it may not be there. Okay,
Yeah.
that's since the MySpace days. I always say that to myself, and I always practice that, because One day, I'm on my toilet, just going through my Facebook messages. This is in 2013, 2014. I get this message from someone. He's like, "Hey, man, discovered you on Pandora. I've been like spinning your stuff all the time. I've been playing it on repeat. Like, I just want to say it's a great job, man. You're killing it. Thank you so much." You know, and then it becomes, it's like a little conversation, right? It's never just like a thank you so much.
Sure.
So he comes back. He's like, we're talking. He's, yeah, I'm a drummer. I'm like, oh, that's awesome, man. Like, what do you do? Oh, yeah, I play drums for a band called Camelot.
Nice.
I'm like, Camelot with a K? Like,
like
Camelot, like Epica, like changed my fucking high school life, that exposed me to power metal for the first time, Camelot. And it's Casey Grillo. Grillo, like he's auditioned for Prince. He's in Queens right now. Like, this is like a drum legend. Okay. And I just like, it blew my hair back. And his last message was like, "Hey man, if you ever want to do something together, let me know." I'm like, bro, I wiped my ass, went into my studio, and I started writing. Yeah. I washed my hands. I started writing music, and we were just looking for vocalists. Actually, one of the vocalists was, people don't know this, but one of the original vocals that we were talking to was actually Elise Ridd from Amaranth.
Oh, fuck yeah.
Yeah, because Amaranth and Camelot, they've toured, tons, and back in the day. And same thing with like Nightwish and all those bands. But yeah, but I think it was like just her being in Sweden, us being here, it would have been a little more difficult. So for shits and giggles, man, there was this one guy, he used to open up for me whenever I would tour in the Indianapolis area. His name was Roman. And he had, bands, and they would open up, and we just hit it off, dude. He's great. Fucking, he had the good look, amazing front man, great singer. I was like, damn, that guy's, I want to be friends with that guy, So we hit it off. And it was his birthday, and I said, "Happy birthday." He's like, "What you up to?" I'm like, "I don't know, man. We're trying to find a singer. You want to try?" And shits and giggles. Bro, when this motherfucker came back with these, like, I get goosebumps talking about it. It was just perfect. Everything was perfect. The harmonies, the delivery, the performance, everything. And they were demos. So, yeah, we released 10 years later because, I was touring, releasing music. Casey was touring with Camelot and then touring with Queensryche. It was just one of those things that the timing never really lined up, man. But yeah, this past July, we released our first single, The Perfect Flaw. And next year is going to be a very busy year for that band. So we'll see what happens.
That's cool, awesome, dude.
Congrats, man. That's awesome. That's so cool to hear. What a sick story behind that.
It's wild, man. It's so crazy.
I have a couple more questions for you. Before we let you go, don't want to keep it too long. I know you're a busy guy. I've heard a lot of people say this before, and I've also personally felt it myself. When writing music, sometimes it can feel like it just comes from somewhere, like almost magically, like as if it's something that just manifests. You can't really harness it. It's just there. Do you experience this when you write? And if so, can you remember a specific moment that it happened where you might have thought, wow, like, where did that come from? Like, holy shit, that was incredible.
Yes, absolutely. I had this analogy where when I was writing Way with Words Part 1 was the first time I actually experienced writer's block to the point where I was pretty depressed. And the reason why I was depressed was because I had a very narrow-minded view of my life as a human being. I saw myself as, I am a songwriter. And when you can't write a song anymore, you ask, who am I? Who am I? You get into this fucking paralyzed state, but it's a very narrow mind, man. You're so much more than just one thing, So, and then I sort of like the thing I love to do the most in life, man, beyond music, beyond art, I love to think, man. I love to think. I'll sit here and write I'm actually working on a book, funny enough. The plan is to release it on my 40th birthday, of just all of these sort of like just musings. And to sort of tie back to what you're talking about, when I softened to the experience of fighting, because I got depressed and I was like, I got to just put it down. Maybe I have to put it down a little bit, and I got to step away from it. But the problem was I stepped away from it too much. Life is a balancing act, man. It's a thing of moderation. When you get depressed, you have to sort of meet that experience halfway with like, all right, well, I can't completely abandon the thing that I feel like I'm the best at. Maybe it's just a matter of the muse not visiting me today.
Mm.
You never know when she's here or not, but you have to show up halfway and meet the universe halfway with the attempt to show up. Because for me, it takes me years to write certain songs. Years. Okay. I'm very patient with myself. I look at it like it's winemaking.
Mm.
It takes time, but it's a unique thing to sort of max out its potential. That's how I view it. And if it takes me sitting here 600 times, I may not write something, but the progress bar in that song still moves a little bit of an inch because I'm one session closer to actually finishing the idea. If you're not showing up here at all, the muse is in this room waiting for you, and you're upstairs jerking off to some weird anime porn, which is fine. We don't judge.
No shame.
But you're not showing up for her.
Right.
But if you show up for her, there's going to be times, maybe she shows up only once in 3 months. The more time, the higher the frequency of you actually showing up, the more you're going to actually meet her, you know?
Yeah.
And there's so many things that are completely out of our control, man. There's days where like you go to a show, you come home, you want to play, right? Or you see an amazing guitar solo like the Shred collabs, man. I've seen them in the past, and I've been like, it's such a like a privilege to like, you know, take part in them. But like I see them like, oh my God, like I want to play. I want to play, you know? There's all these things, and sometimes out of the frustration of not being able to do something, magic sometimes happens. You know, and listen, all of us feel like when we write that one sick lick or one sick riff, we sort of have in our mind, oh, that's the last sick riff I will ever write. Everyone goes through that. I go through it. I've heard Misha Mansour talk about that, you know. We sort of all go through it, man. And I think that one of the things that helps soften the edges of that experience a little bit is just knowing that A, you're not alone, and B, the people that you look up to are also in the same fucking boat as you, man. You know? So yeah, man, it happens all the time, you know. But recently I had this strange click in my head recently where I just sort of like fell in love with guitar again, you know, like I'm practicing every day. And this dude, this your Shred collab, like bro, I'm not, oh man. I work really hard on my guest solos, like
Yes, you do.
very hard. Bro, like I probably spent like close to like 55 hours on it total, like on and off since you gave it to me.
Jesus.
And it's just one of those things where like I don't even care if like I'm happy with it, you know? It's like this sort of like, you know that you fought tooth and nail and you poured every ounce of your fucking essence into something. And I think that even if you don't win the battle overall, like you like there's sort of like, you know, you put up a good fight and you earned whatever experience you sort of learned, you know. And there was days where I came down here and I was flowing, man. I was improvising so well. I'm like, I'm gonna live stream this. I'm killing it, you know. Then I go to hit live and I'm like, you know, like, you know, it just sort of what happens, man. But yeah, totally, man. I think it's a universal understanding that's what happens when you get inspired.
Yeah, and sometimes introducing like a new element can totally just intercept that flow state. You
Oh
know what I mean?
yeah,
So like, you
dude.
could be just like, yeah, then like, oh, live stream, okay, I gotta set up this and set up this. Then suddenly you're like, where'd it go? I just had it. Like it's like when you
Yep.
drop a pick, where'd it go? It's like
Yep.
it's gone forever.
Yeah. Or even eating a meal or taking a shower.
Yeah.
That'll going out for a ride to go to the supermarket, you come back, you just sometimes lose it, you know?
Yeah, it's so strange, man. It is a very like almost magical thing. I remember when I was tracking the solo for the Blade, what the Scion song that came out a while ago. I was tracking it with one guitar, and the way that we had it tuned, I think I was playing it in kind of like an open, like an A minor tuning or whatever, and I was just
Okay.
not getting anything. And so I took a break, came back, and my producer was like, use this guitar, play it in E major, go. And he's like, just play E major, just do something. And it was just like, it just happened. So like the solo on that song was just like the first take of me with a brand new guitar, different key, like the way it like I had to just not really know what I was doing and just like fall into it. But then
Yeah.
also just the situation was so different and just instantly it was there. So like
Yeah.
it's so weird how these little tiny changes and these little things can just affect the flow that happens.
Well, how is it for you then? Like, because when you're with a producer, which is an amazing tool, by the way, like someone who knows how to get a really good performance out of a musician, like that was what Will Putney taught me. Like
mhm.
he knew how to get amazing musician performances out of me and my drummer. But for you, in that situation, do you feel like it's you know, the energy of the other people that you're sort of vibing off of? Like you're obviously comfortable enough to just flow with it, like a new experience. But like, was it like sort of tough to adjust to at first, and then you get comfortable, and then you're good?
Kind of. It depends on who it is.
Uh,
If I don't vibe with the person, then I just can't work with them. And
right,
that's
right,
just is what it is.
right. Doesn't
Sometimes
mean that
they're
they're a bad person either. It just means that
sure. Yeah,
you
just
know.
working with them might not be the best thing.
Hmm.
And sometimes there's a level of chaos between musician and producer that can be a beneficial thing.
Yes.
Um, so it's kind of just finding that balance. And once I do, the whether or not I come out, sometimes I come out of it frustrated, sometimes I come out of it feeling just on top of the world. But at the end of the day, what really matters is coming out of it with a piece of music that I'm proud of and that, you know, sticks essentially.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's because I've worked with different producers before, and I'm sure you have as well. And
Right.
sometimes you just can't, you know, if the vibe isn't there. um you know, and so finding a producer that understands you, maybe even has some of the same like musical influences as you, musical tastes, grew up listening to the same stuff, has the same vision. That way you
Yeah.
both can just streamline off of each other, where like, oh, I have this
Mhm.
cool riff, well, I got a verse for it, yeah, well, we're just obviously going to go into a chorus like this, yeah, of course, you know what I mean? So like
Right.
finding that type of producer is really beneficial.
Yep.
For sure. Have one more question for you before we let you go here, Angel. What is the one thing that Angel Vivaldi has accomplished in his life so far that he is most proud of?
Hmm.
It's a tough question.
Hmm.
I think it's a tough question for anyone, but for an artist specifically, it's a very tough
You,
question. But I'm
you
genuinely
know,
curious.
for me, it's outside of art, man. I'm really proud of the person I am. And I feel like that's the nucleus. It's the tree in which every artistic idea flows out of. I've over the past couple years have had some very needed, overdue ego deaths, sober ego deaths, which are arguably worse. Um,
Because then you feel it more.
oh, you feel it more, and there's this sort of conscious practice from that sort of state of mind that you could take with you. If you, and I think it psilocybin, whatever, that's helpful. But if you're happy with who you are and you love who you are, and there's this genuine desire to constantly build on that, and there's an effort to build on it where you're putting yourself in uncomfortable situations. I am very, very strong in my vision. If I had done the Musicians Mansion co-hosting maybe 7 years ago, I would have been running the show. I would have been, "Duh, duh, 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 we're going to do this, we're going to do this." No, that's not my
Mhm.
role. Being in a band, I'm going to help write the songs, and I'll do this. If you guys need anything from me, I'll jump in. But this isn't the Angel Vivaldi show, you know. So there's and but that I think that's really the best answer for that question. For me personally, it's just I'm just really happy with who I am, and I'm open to making mistakes and learning from people who are much better at certain things that I'm not really good at, or have a desire to get better at. Um, and then I guess from an artistic perspective, I mean, Away with Words Part One and Part Two, I think was probably it for me because it just shows two completely different sides of the same person, and I think it also shows that it's okay to take a risk to make peace with the desires and the things that you want to say for yourself that you feel reflect who you truly are. Because listen, I started doing guitar instrumental in 2003. No one gave a fuck about guitar instrumental in 2003. I'm doing like Chick Corea acoustic weird Latin stuff. Like no one's really doing that now either. I don't
Mhm.
care. I don't care, man. You know? So at the very least, even if it's something that if you're like into heavy music and you didn't really necessarily vibe with the last record, I mean, I think people just based on the comments that I read were just like, I've never heard this before. And at the very least, it's a lesson of like, you can do whatever you want, man. It's
Mhm.
your life. It's important to like care about what people think. I think it's kind of dumb too. I mean, I'm going to go on a little bit of a tangent here at the end here, but I think a lot of people say, I don't care what people think. That was me. No, you have to care what people think to some degree. That's the most egotistical thing to say is you don't care what people think because you have to care what certain people think because certain people are better at the thing that you were trying to achieve. And if you don't take their opinion into consideration, for example, a producer who's been doing and recording music for longer than you've been alive,
Mhm.
then who do you think you are, man? You got to take a step back, Um, and just be open to just being a better you, not just for yourself, but for the fucking world, because Lord knows we need it. You know?
100%. Yeah.
But that's my thoughts on it.
Yeah.
Beautifully put.
Beautifully put. Well, Angel, you are methodical, you are authentic, you are beautifully crafted, and your music can be viewed everywhere on streaming platforms. Before we go, is there anything that you would like to say to the audience watching? And yeah, what's next for Angel Vivaldi? What you got coming up?
Oh man, next year, 2024 is gonna be a very, very, very busy year for me. Obviously,
Love to
with
hear that.
the ashes. Yeah, yeah. We got some solo releases coming up. We got some very unexpected collaborations that just literally hit my inbox 2 days ago that are very fresh.
Mm.
Yeah, I'm just really looking forward to everything, man. I'm maybe, just maybe I might be going back on tour. I don't know.
Oh, look out for that. That would be awesome.
We'll
Hell
see, man.
yeah, man. That's
But
really
honestly,
cool.
just thank you all for your attention, and if you made it this far into the podcast, again, thanks for that, and yeah, thank you both for having me, man. This is a wonderful conversation. I thoroughly enjoyed myself.
Well, thank you for taking the time to join us today. We really appreciate it. Ladies and gentlemen, Angel Vivaldi. Thank you so much for joining us, Angel. And yeah, you can check out Angel in the links in the description below. We'll put some links to his music, YouTube and Spotify and all that good stuff so you can find him and you can support him. And yeah, we'll stay tuned for all the cool things that you have coming up in the future. I am very excited to see what you're going to give the world. And I hope you do that book. I hope you do that book eventually. I want to read that shit. I know it's going to be full of some wise words for sure.
Every day we were hacking away at it, man. But thank you guys so
Hell
much
yeah.
for your time. I really appreciate you
Yeah,
both.
thank you. Appreciate your time.
Of course. All right. We'll talk to you later. Angel, have a
Take
good
care,
rest
guys.
of your day.
Bye-bye.
You too, bud.
Thank you guys so much for listening to that podcast and watching with Mr. Angel Vivaldi. Angeler Vivaldi.
Angel or Vivaldi.
I can talk. Angel of Vivaldi. Such a good conversation. Now, let us get into the best part of any DickeyDines podcast, and that is the after show. Cue it.
Hit the button.
Hit the button.
It's time for the after show.
All right, everybody, welcome to the after show. This is the part of the podcast where we interact with our patrons over on Patreon, where they leave us messages, comments, lovely, nice things to say, ask us questions and all that good stuff, and we respond to them in the after show. If you want to be a part of the after show, you can click the link down below in the description and go to our Patreon. And even for just $1 a month, you can sign up and support us. Imagine that. Imagine supporting the boys for just $1 a month. You know, that's $12 a year. That's half of a Netflix per month, and we give you way more entertaining content. I guarantee it.
That's pretty cash money.
It's pretty cash money. All right, first up we have from Seth Davis. He says he's got a few questions. Actually, he says,
"Wow,
for Jared, you've acknowledged some of the critiques with Musician Mansion. How do you feel about it now that it's been a few weeks? Is there anything that you wish you did different in the edit or the challenges? And Austin, are there any updates on the horror book that you're working on?" I didn't even know you're writing a horror book.
Yeah, I think we talked about it before.
Did we?
Yeah, it was a while ago though. I'm still writing it. Yeah, I work on it all the
Tell
time.
us about this. I forget. I don't think we talked about it enough. I forgot.
Yeah, I don't know. It's a thing I love horror and stuff, and I've always liked writing. It was like my favorite thing in school. Why I like writing lyrics, and so I've been working on like a little horror book, and it's kind of like, you know, Stephen King-esque in that way, where it's like a horror novella, but it's, you know, a story that follows characters and stuff, and it's not just purely like, I don't know, like absurd monsters or shit like that.
Okay.
It's like a kind of like a mystery thing. But yeah, it's pretty cool. I have a title, and I'm like 6 chapters in, I think.
Nice.
I've been working on it for a while. It's just something I do in my free time when I feel kind of like inspired and I don't want to do music. I'm like, I'm going to write on this fucking book I've been working on.
Do you have an end in sight, or are you just going to go until you think it's okay? This is.
I came up with the ending first, and because I wanted the ending to be really powerful, and so I like worked kind of backwards.
Okay, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, I wanted that way there's not going to be any plot holes or missing things, because if it ultimately is working towards this event that I have solidified, you know, so it should, going backwards should make it so there's no like holes in the story. And so far it feels pretty cool. I don't know, it's kind of something I'm pretty proud of so far.
Nice. That sounds awesome. Yeah. I want to read it.
Yeah, eventually I'd love to get like a couple of like physical copies made or something. I feel like that'd be really cool. Like I'll put it up digitally for sure, but like to actually own like a copy of something like that would be really cool.
Yeah, you for sure could, 100% find some. I don't even know how you do that, but I'm sure you can find some bookmaker website.
I know. I've seen millions of books in the store. I'm like, there's got to be there's got to be a cheap way to do this.
Before you do it, just send it to a publisher and see what happens.
That'd be crazy.
Yeah, that too. You never know.
What about for you?
For the first, for my section of the questions, how do you feel about Musician Mansion, or how do I feel about Musician Mansion now that it's been a few weeks? Is there anything that you wish you did different in the edit or the challenges? I actually feel really good about it. I think that with the time that I had to do it and the funding that I had to do it, we did the best that we probably could have, and I am proud of it. I think that I acknowledge and understand any of the critiques being mainly more music, less, pretty much just don't do day 3 and we're fine, right? That was pretty much it. It was like day 1 was music, day 2 was music and music video, day 4 was busking, live music, and I guess day 5 was the comedy roast. So day 3 and day 5 seemed to be you should have done more music instead of comedy roast and this and that, but I'm happy with it. I think that it also reaches an audience that is not just musicians when you do stuff like that. I probably won't do Bumper Ball again because it could have gone really bad. In hindsight, someone could have actually got injured, like sprained an ankle or broken a leg or something. I don't want
got scars on their knees for the rest of
scars on their knees for the rest of the I don't. Maybe not the Bumper Ball thing, but the Guitar Smash was super fun. The Gross Food I thought was super fun, and it just kind of opens it up to a broader audience. Obviously, if I would have had more funding, I could think of 1,000 things that would be super cool to do, but with limited budget, you can only do so much, and it was pretty much just a pilot season. We had 5 days, we did 5 episodes. There was no extra time to do anything else, and it kind of jump started me into thinking of season 2 and how to do season 2 like super cool and do like a lot of musical challenges. So I don't know if I would have done anything super different. Maybe if I was just better at editing in the editing process, maybe I would have done the edits a little better or something like that. I'm not super good at that, but luckily I had Kevin who stepped in and pretty much added the last 15, 20%, 30% on everything and made it like 10 times better than what it was. So I don't know. It's tough, and like I said, it was a pilot season. They use pilot episode. It's usually how it is, but it's 5 episodes of a pilot thing. So
I don't think a lot of people know how much of a gum and duct tape we kind of had to make this thing work.
For sure, yeah, and it was a lot of that. It was a lot of volunteer friends that we just didn't have the budget to pay for, but they were like, oh, I even offered like I'll give you out of my pocket, $500-600 to come and do this. So, oh, dude, don't worry about it. We just want to be there. We just want to help out, and I'm forever grateful for those people. But I mean, yeah, like there's a lot of stuff that we did not do exactly right that we should have, at least as far as technically in the filming and the audio and stuff. But it was still great. I'm still very happy with it. And I'm just excited to do season 2, which hopefully will happen. Should know more about that very soon. But yeah, I don't know. I am happy with it, and the critiques too, I never really took to heart, like some people were like pretty aggressive about it. Like, what the fuck? You got like tons of musicians together, but you had them eat gross food. It's like, yeah, I don't like, it was fun. Like, fuck off.
People
like,
too.
I don't know what you expected, but like, here we are.
You get to see something other than their actual, you get to see the real person behind that.
Yeah, that was the other thing too, was like, they are constantly doing music content, okay, on all of their channels. Like, yes, you get them all together. You want to see them work together doing music. But how about giving people content you will never see these people do? Like Justin flipping and fucking smashing a guitar that was insane. Drusif eating an egg that was fucking, 10, 12 years old or whatever. And, people running into, like, it was just silly fun. And like, but you would never see these people do it if I didn't do it. So it was kind of.
Where else are you going to get acoustic deathcore, bro?
Acoustic deathcore, dude. Where are you going to see that? So yeah, it was fun. It was fun. Okay, let's see here. Now, these are some recommendations of content that you all want to see from us.
Oh.
So we have Alan Christopher says, y'all need to go to Strange Reddit Confessions again. I've watched those probably 1,000 times.
I'd be down to bring some Reddit shit back.
Strange Reddit Confessions. Reddit stuff is super fun. I'm totally down to do some one-off Reddit things here and there. We've definitely had some good fun. Some of the most fun content I think that we've done that's like tabletop content is like how we just did the Temu thing, or we've done Wish.com. We found crazy ads on Craigslist. All that type of stuff was like so silly and fun. But yeah, we'll definitely do some more Reddit stuff, Reddit confessions. Rage Mage says, I miss cooking with Austin. Just watched the Ultimate Cheese Wrecking Balls video. He destroys so much cheese.
This is my favorite part about that series is it's like the Berenstein Bears thing where it's like people call it different shit all the time. Like cooking with Austin, like it's sort of close.
That's basically it.
There's an alternate universe where it's that, where you're cooking for me.
The dining with Dickie stuff. Yeah, we might do. We might do.
Yeah, we've
it.
talked about bringing back like a different version of it, like a rehauled, reimagined.
I think it would be funny to still do like odd combinations of food, but do like baller on a budget kind of shit where it's like $20 Christmas feast and it's like mixing ham and ramen noodles.
Cool. Yeah.
It's like edible, but it's like, oh, okay, like you could make a Christmas feast for $20 and then let Austin do his goofy thing. Quindica says, Jared, you said you have a ton of good footage that you had to edit out of Musician Mansion, but have you thought about releasing any of your own behind the scenes or outtake videos? So actually, if you go to my channel on YouTube, I have already started doing this. I have released, I think it's like a 20-minute video of Greystone when you guys are writing your song. The tons of clips from the actual writing of the song that were not in Musician Mansion are on a video on my channel. Extra busking footage of the deathcore busking. I put behind the scenes bonus footage of that as well. What else have I did a couple more. So I'm working on it. Yes. So there's trickling out. Yeah. So there's definitely some bonus content for Musician Mansion. Also, if you haven't already, I should say, everyone else that was there, if you go to their channels, pretty much everyone did a vlog. They did their own content. Like Jimena did, I think, 5 vlogs. Justin did like an hour and a half vlog throughout the entire week. Bana did 3 or 4 videos, 5 videos. Sunfire did like 12 videos, like vlogs and just silly videos. You posted one on your channel. There's tons. Lauren Babick did a few. Like, I'm pretty sure almost everyone did extra bonus content. So
yeah, I think the only people that didn't were the 2 that weren't like content creators.
Yeah,
probably.
like Damien and Dylan.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I don't think Sophie did. I don't think Nick did.
Oh, you know, I think Dylan. Now that I think about it, I think Dylan put a he did a drum. It
was like a 4-minute
or something like that. Or it was the jam with the Angel
jam session.
That's what it was.
Yeah, so Dylan did do. I don't think Sophie did. I don't think Nick did, and I think Bradley did. Bradley made a few. I think
Nick did like a short. I think because he had me, Justin, and Andrew do like we all said like a one-liner or something. I don't
Gotcha.
I don't even know if he posted it now that I think about it.
There's a lot. So if you go to their YouTube pages, you'll be able to, or just go to YouTube and type Musician Mansion, and then there's going to be like 50 videos,
honestly.
Tons of content, and that was kind of like the whole point, was so that the show was the show, and then you get all the bonus content on their channels, and then it's like all cross promoted. McKinley Gents says each person wears a shock collar that has different levels of intensity. So after each wrong answer, the person obviously gets shocked and the level goes up until we have a heart attack and die.
Yeah, I've always thought it would be fun to do like a series where you try to say like a breakdown one-liner, but with a challenge like that, where you have the dog collar on, or like eat a hot chip beforehand, or do the chubby bunny, but try to say a line, like stuff like that, where you take turns trying to do a vocal call out,
right?
But you're upping the ante each time.
For sure. Yeah, that'd be funny. Sambo 512 says, guess the lyrics, rap or metal edition.
Rap or metal?
That's actually pretty good idea.
Yeah, that'd be interesting.
Is it rap or is it metal?
I feel like a rap or new metal would be like impossible.
Right, it's all Limp Bizkit. Every song is Limp Bizkit. That would be actually not a bad idea. That would be
I
a
love
fun one.
that little series we've kind of been doing where it's just like is it this genre or something made up? Like, it's like one of my favorite things we've been doing.
Let's see. Music Architect says, I know if we get to 250 patrons, you and Austin are releasing a song. Once that happens, could we get a podcast on how you guys wrote it and maybe how your writing processes have changed over the years? Yeah.
Yeah, I don't
Sure.
I don't see why not.
Yeah, totally. I think we're at like 215, almost 220.
Yo, so
We're
close.
so close.
So close.
We need like 30 people to sign up, even for just $1. Even if it's just $1, and then we'll drop a banger.
If you're a $5 patron, make 5 accounts and donate $1 each. change your subscription.
Don't tell them that. The Maddie Burns says, I'd love to see you guys do a stand-up open mic session, like you guys riff off each other, super cool, even if it's not a true comedy show, and just between acts at a local show. I think it would be awesome. We did a very unplanned version of that like 10 years ago.
Oh, the show we hosted. Yeah.
We were like hosting a show and we just kind of got up and like roasted the bands.
In between the sets.
I was one of those bands.
You were one of those bands, yeah.
You called me old like 10 years ago.
I think, I referenced the band, the Sky Electric, too, and I think half of you weren't even in that band at the time.
It was just Jacob.
Yeah, it was like it's such a niche reference.
That would be interesting, though, to do a dual comedy stand-up thing. You know, I've seen it, but it's rare where 2 people get up and do a do.
Or where they like roast each other.
Dual, no, like just a comedy, like stand-up.
Oh, like
and they just like do it off each other.
Oh, weird. How does that work? Like,
You've never seen that?
Just like improv? Or?
I've seen a couple people do it. It's pretty good.
Interesting.
That'd be something that we could definitely look into. Foot Paunch, who also has their name on the wall behind us because he's a $25 patron, says, I think it would be fun to do some kind of tier lists, whether it be on bands' album compilations or unrelated to music. Tier lists are always fun.
Yeah, I love a good tier list. I actually almost did that for my video today. I was going to do like iconic metal album tier list
Uh-huh.
and just get like 25 like just legendary artworks
Yeah.
and rank them in a tier list.
Hell yeah. Yeah, that'd be cool. Memphis Egbert says, more Reddit videos. And then I Have a Big Peen responded and said, as fuck.
Wait, what?
Just like, yeah.
More Reddit videos as fuck.
Like, yeah, just do it. Like, yeah.
as fuck.
More,
Just
yeah. Alex Bow says, teaching Dicky Guitar Part 2 and more story gaming.
That'd be crazy to bring back.
I've actually got a lot of people in the Discord and on Patreon that are messaging us saying they want to watch us game. They want to see more games.
Go bring back the story gaming.
We got to figure out a setup in here or something where we can just have like, well, we already have the monitor, but bring like something up here and then hook up a Xbox or something and do some fucking gaming content.
Yeah, finally beat the Cuphead DLC.
So someone literally today messaged us and was like, dude, you guys got to play Cuphead again.
Oh, really?
I was like, I want to see Dicky rage, bro. I was like, okay, I'll ask him, see what he says.
Dude, for real. That was like prime gaming too. That'd be so hard to get back into it. That'd be funny.
Yeah. There's more Reddit confessions. A continuation of the songs from your childhood that are still bangers, which we talked about earlier today, which I think we're gonna do that again.
That could be a never-ending series.
Oh yeah, there's so many songs. More 1 second song challenges, metal lyrics version of Mad Libs, more video game content, top 10 guilty pleasures. These are all great ideas.
Okay.
Got to make a list. We'll make a list. We'll check it twice, and we'll do it in 2024.
I think it might be kind of fun to do the gaming thing. We'll just get a capture card up here.
Yeah.
And maybe maybe we do a live stream with the games. And then
Live streams would be cool too.
we can have questions come in and do it in real time. And then it'll just exist.
Yeah, as a live stream. That'd be cool too, for sure. We'll look into that. So that is the after show today with the patrons over on Patreon. If you want to be part of the after show, you can go and click the link in the description below to go to our Patreon, and you can sign up for just $1 a month if you wish. Thank you. Get bonus perks and be part of the after show. Really do appreciate it because it helps us keep the lights on and it helps Kevin feed his babies and baby mama. Thank you guys so much for watching this podcast with Angel Vivaldi. Do please go check out his content. We'll put some links in the description below for you to go find him. He's an amazing person, an amazing musician, and we love him dearly.
Dear.
Austin, would you like to say anything?
Thanks for watching. Thanks, Angel, for being a part of this. That was really sick of you. Appreciate it. Thanks, patrons. Thanks for being a part of the scoop. And thanks for leaving your questions.
I just noticed that you're wearing a fucking Santa hat.
You just noticed. Merry Christmas, cunt.